When people hear Scandinavia, they usually picture the same things: cold weather, clean cities, expensive coffee. It sounds calm, predictable, organized. But that image hides something important, because traveling through Scandinavia doesn't feel calm the way people expect. It feels quiet, vast, and occasionally uncomfortable. And most visitors don't realize why until they're already there. This region is bigger than it looks. On a map, Scandinavia doesn't look overwhelming. You can trace a line from Copenhagen to the Arctic Circle in one swift gesture. But once you start moving through it, distances feel different. The map lied. Driving takes longer than expected, not because of traffic, but because the two-lane road is the only road, and it coils around a lake for 30 kilometers. Towns are far apart, connected by stretches of pine forest and exposed rock that show no sign of human settlement. Nature fills the space in between, not as decoration, but as the default state of things. Here's the first surprise. Much of Scandinavia is not designed around tourism. It's designed around distance and weather, around survival, then efficiency. The roads curve not for scenic views, but to avoid granite outcrops that blasting couldn't remove. Train timetables have hidden buffers for spring snowmelt or autumn leaf slick rails. You will wait for a ferry that runs only 4 times a day because the alternative is a 5-hour detour. You don't move quickly here. You adjust. You learn that a short distance, in local terms, is measured in time, not kilometers. Norway doesn't feel like a country. In western Norway, roads end abruptly. They simply stop at a dock, surrendering to the fjord. Mountains rise straight out of the water, sheer and dark, cutting off any forward view. Ferries replace highways. They are floating waiting rooms where you stand silently with locals and their cars, all suspended in transit. Villages sit isolated along the coast, clinging to narrow strips of flat land between the cliff and the deep water. Places near the fjords don't feel connected to each other. They feel separate. Each one is an island of its own, facing the water, its back to the impassable rock. Here's the shock. You don't pass through this landscape. You wait for it to let you move. Your schedule is a suggestion. Travel plans change based on wind, rain, and light. A sudden squall closes a mountain pass. Low cloud cancels a sightseeing flight. You learn to check the weather app, not for the temperature, but for the wind direction and the millimeter count of rain. And that becomes normal very fast. The frustration melts away, replaced by a quiet submission to a scale that makes you feel small. And then the environment shifts completely. Islands where time moves differently. Far north, in places like the Lofoten Islands, villages look almost staged. Too perfect. Red wooden cabins, roerbuer, on stilts over the water. Fishing racks hung with thousands of decapitated cod, drying in the wind into torfisk. Sharp peaks behind everything, rising like dragon's teeth from the sea. But living here isn't scenic. It's seasonal and severe. The postcard is a byproduct of a hard maritime life. Here's what visitors don't expect. Daily life revolves around weather windows. Not will it rain, but will the wind be below 15 knots for long enough to get the boat out? If conditions change, plans stop. A canceled ferry isn't a delay, it's a rewriting of the week. The supermarket delivery didn't arrive. The shelves will be thin tomorrow. This is a place where you feel the supply chain, where the concept of remote becomes tangible. This isn't slow travel by choice. It's slow travel by necessity. The landscape dictates the tempo, and you are not the conductor. If you're interested in places that don't bend to visitors, places where you adapt instead of being entertained, subscribe. This channel focuses on travel that feels real, not polished. Cities that don't feel crowded. Cities in Scandinavia behave differently. They breathe. In Stockholm, water divides neighborhoods. You cross bridges constantly, the city fragmenting into a manageable archipelago of districts. Movement feels spread out, channeled along wide esplanades and waterfront promenades. Noise is controlled, absorbed by the water, the parks, the deliberate use of stone and brick that doesn't echo like concrete canyons. Even in busy areas, space is respected. The bubble of personal distance is physical. People don't brush past you, they move around you. Here's the surprise. These cities don't feel empty. They feel managed. Designed with a psychological understanding of crowding. Crowds exist, but they don't dominate. They dissipate into parks, onto designated bike lanes, into a network of silent interior courtyards you only discover by accident. There is always a way out of the density, a staircase to the water, a path into a grove of trees in the city center. That changes how long you want to stay outside. You don't feel drained by the public realm. You can exist in it for hours. The city is not an assault, it's a platform. Copenhagen doesn't feel rushed. In Copenhagen, the city doesn't push you. Bikes outnumber cars. People stop for no visible reason, just to look at the light on the canal. Public spaces are actually used, not just decorated. Here's the shock. Efficiency here doesn't mean speed. It means flow. It's the absence of friction, not the presence of hurry. The system of bikes, of buses, of green lights works so you don't have to fight it. Once you notice that, other cities start to feel unnecessarily aggressive, and then comes the cold most people underestimate. The north, where light controls everything. In northern Scandinavia, daylight disappears for months, or it never leaves. In places like Lapland, schedules stop mattering. You don't meet for dinner at 7. You meet when the light is good, or when the storm passes. People plan around light, not clocks. Here's what surprises visitors. Life doesn't pause. It reorganizes entirely. Routines adjust. You shop differently, sleep differently. Energy changes. The collective mood lifts palpably with the first hour of returning sun in January. Silence increases, thick and absolute under the snow. And you feel it immediately. Why this region feels reserved. Scandinavia often feels emotionally quiet, not unfriendly, not closed, just reserved. A silence that feels observational, not judgmental. Here's the reality most people don't hear. Privacy is valued more than performance. A conversation is an exchange, not a performance. Personal space is respected, on the sidewalk, on the bus, in a queue. Conversations are efficient. Silence is not a gap to be filled, but a part of the conversation. Once you understand this, interactions feel clearer, not colder. There's a relief in the absence of unnecessary noise. Why most visitors miss the point. Many people come expecting highlights. They photograph. They move on. They stay busy, ticking boxes from a guidebook. But Scandinavia doesn't reward speed. It rewards patience. It rewards stillness. If you rush through it, it feels empty, withholding its secrets. If you slow down, it feels intentional. The vastness becomes a presence, not an absence. The quiet becomes a language. That difference defines the entire experience. Scandinavia isn't dramatic in obvious ways. It doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't exaggerate. Instead, it forces adjustment. To distance, to weather, to silence. To the idea that nature isn't a backdrop here. It's the main character. The beauty isn't handed to you. It's earned through your own willingness to adapt. If this video changed how you think about traveling in Scandinavia, subscribe, because some places don't impress you immediately. They reveal themselves once you stop expecting them to.